Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into round 3 here of pole position racing. It is the Qatar Grand Prix, and of course, as always, my name is Brad. I will be your host today, and we are going to see exactly where things land ourselves and how this fun little sprint race weekend here in Qatar plays out. As always, want to take some time to thank our sponsors, Racetracks, the Moza team, and of course JP Broadcasting, who brought you last week's race. So if you're wondering where was the stream for last week, well, it wasn't here. It was over on the JP Broadcasting Network over on YouTube/JP Broadcasting. And of course, they will be bringing you more races as the season goes. We will have them bringing along the February 18th race here coming up in just a couple weeks' time, and that will be round 5. And then they'll, of course, be bringing along a couple more weeks in March and April. Now, jumping in just a few minutes left to go here in qualifying, and we are taking a look here at, it looks like it is going to be Jalajne here in third place. Quick note, Gaviron is not actually Gaviron. That is, who is that is running in his place? That is actually going to be Puhash. So if you hear me refer to Gaviron or Puhash, use that name interchangeably there in the AlphaTauri. 15 drivers in the race today. And of course, this is going to be a sprint weekend, so we'll have qualifying, we'll have the sprint, and then lobby will restart after the sprint race. And jumping into the pits here, Jalajne is, and we of course have Mateusz here in fourth place here in the Red Bull. And if you did miss last week's stream, as you hopefully didn't, but if for some reason this is your first time here, of course, welcome, and I do want to go over the results of last week. So last week was in Bahrain. First place was Mateusz there, who is spinning like a ballerina out of Sector 3. Second place was Jalajne. Third was Degtukas. Struggling today here. And then, of course, Graxit finished in 4th, John Meister 5th, Gaviron 6th, Velocity, Baran, Mairos, and Buchek finishing out our top 10 there. Kashti was in 11th, Debe was in 12th. Looking through here, our pole position driver was Baran last week. So lots of things mixing up and going through. It was a very, very good race there last week. And again, if you missed it and you want to see the replay, go to JP Broadcasting on YouTube. Now, check out Kashti here. Kashti coming around. It seems nice and comfortable on an outlap, trying to set things up. 4 minutes left to go here in qualifying. And for these drivers, it is going to be a case of get out here, do a final outlap, and then do a good push lap and see what they can get going and put together here. And of course, the big key is, survive qualifying, but then they need to also survive the sprint race as well and make their way through and really try to take advantage of the sprint race and get their way ahead. Qatar is a pretty tricky and a very, very tire demanding circuit. It's a unique track in that regard, and of course we saw how Qatar treated real life F1, so I won't say anything beyond that. Besides, we saw what happened with real life F1 and how the Qatar track did there, so thankfully we are in a simulator, don't have to worry about that. As Kashti is completing an outlap here, and it is going to be Kushor and Velix that are the ones starting push laps here. Velix especially here, who is just starting into Sector 3. We'll see if Velix can improve that time. Drivers are very, very close in competition here. 120.0 from Graxent for the lead and for pole position, and a 122.4 from Velix, who is currently in 15. And I don't think that's a representative time, so I do believe Velix will have some more time to find as we go through here. Middle sector, Velix trying to just finish up a very clean lap. And as Velix comes through, we'll see where he find himself coming through the final corner now. Nice and relaxed through for Velix. His teammate is just now starting the final sector. As Velix hits the line, it is going to be a 121.7, so improves up into 14th, but into the 121s, which is important to be at. His teammate Kushor will be coming around the final sector now. And we'll see if Kushor is able to improve any, as Kushor down the main straight here, long main straight, is going to run down and is going to get a 121.3. So Kushor finds his way up into 11th, and now we have several drivers who are out on laps. Kashti coming around the third sector. It is a fairly quick lap here with a 120, so not too much waiting to find where drivers land themselves. But lots of drivers on outlaps right now, lots of drivers going through push laps, and Cashty coming around final sector, DRS open, and Cashty will run all the way down the main straight, and Cashty is going to finish with a 120.3, good enough for 4th place there, so Cashty with a lot of improvement. We'll check in with Dave here in 11th place, and the Ferrari is just starting a push lap going through the first sector, and you can see first sector down by almost a second, so this lap is not going to be very good, and traffic is going to come into play as well. Myros, who is starting the first lap, or finishing up the first sector here of his final lap, and is down by a 10th, so probably not going to be a great lap for Myros either. As we watch here, and we continue to see who can land what. Graxon, of course, is on an outlap here with Baron not far ahead. So the 2 Mercedes drivers will be looking to start their final laps. And you can see that behind him is coming through Kushor and Velix, who are into the pits. And behind them is the AlphaTauri of Puhash, who is going through as well. Now, here we go. Graxon will be starting a push lap. And we'll watch our defending champion here start this push lap and see where he can land. Starting on board here with Graxon for what can be a tricky first sector, especially those first few corners if the drivers don't time it right and don't watch what they're doing. Myros retiring out of the session there, so that is 1 less driver for Graxon to worry about. And you can see Baron just ahead to give his teammate a little bit of slipstream here, but possibly dirty air in the corners. You can see the ART driver trying to hold on. Purple sector 1 as the checkered flag falls, so Cashty, Kuchor, Velix will be locked into their places here. You can see Graxon is just trying to hold on as best he can here and stay consistent. Baron there in 2nd place, and as they come through middle sector here, will it be a purple middle sector for Graxon as he comes around? Let's see where he lands. Purple sector 2, so good times coming there for him. Jalajne only good enough for 2nd place across the line. We'll see where Mateusz can find himself coming through the middle sector. The Red Bulls are ahead, and it does look like he is going very slow, so Mateusz will not be improving his time any. Baron will come across the line, and Baron should find a bit of time. His teammate is considerably faster, though, and with that toe down the main straight, will Graxon get into the 119s? It looks like he will. There's no reason he shouldn't, and Graxon comes across the line. The 120.017, identical times. So Graxon, if you were not sure he was the fastest on track, he just cements the answer there with an identical time. Mateusz out into the gravel there around the final corner. Unfortunate for him, Wasserschwein coming down the main straight. Wasserschwein improves up to P10. But all eyes on the Mercedes driver of Graxon. 120.017, 2 times in a row. Identical times. Beautiful driving there from the Mercedes drivers. We're a 1-2 lockout here on the sprint race. Now, we need to see them have a good race start through. So it's Graxon, Baron, Jalajne, Cashty, Mateusz, John Meister, Gavron, a.k.a. Puhash, Myros, Kaniel, Wasserschwein, Buchik, Debe, Kushor, Maverick is our top 14. And then, of course, in 15th place is going to be the great Velix. So that is going to wrap up the end of our qualifying session. Hang out for just a moment. We get ready for the sprint race. Now, as we get ready for the sprint race here, we will be looking at a very, very quick little sprint race for these drivers, and it should be very competitive. Now we just wait for the drivers to get into their setups, get their cars ready to go here, and have their plan for this very quick sprint race. I can't anticipate seeing a pit stop through, but you never know with the drivers, so as they get things set up and ready to go. Now, cars are on the grid, and it's going to be 5 red lights. I lied. Ha, see, I got you. It even got me there. It was a formation lap. So drivers will take their formation lap here, all 15 cars, and take their nice little pace around Qatar for this 10-lap sprint shootout. So, and of course, the sprint will be what determines everything in for the race. So this is a very important moment for the drivers to get nice and comfortable and ready to go. They need to have a very good sprint race, because a bad sprint race could completely cost them when it comes to the main event. If you are new to pole position racing, I do want to welcome you in to exclamation YouTube in the chat, and you can go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube, where the VOD of this stream will get posted mid-week and be up and ready to go. And of course, you can always do some other fun little exclamation marks in the chat and get ready to go. If you are asking about who supports the league, you can always do exclamation Loam1138, exclamation JPB, exclamation Moza, exclamation support, and exclamation racetracks in the chat. And of course, if you're watching, I would encourage you to do exclamation syntax in the chat. That is SENTEX, syntax. Somebody throw exclamation syntax in the chat. Let's see what comes out of that. And strategy, medium or hard tires. And as we look here, everyone but John Meister on the medium tires. John Meister, of course, opting for the softs, which is going to be a tough one, but I do think John Meister can make the 10 laps on the softs work. But it will be challenging for him, but I don't want to say it's impossible. Graxit coming across. You can see Graxit just very simple, getting into position and holding on, getting ready to go here. And there is Graxit in place. There's his teammate Baran in place. See all the drivers going through. And we will wait on the final car, Velix, to get into position here. And you see Velix doing a little bit of last second swerving, seeing what additional tire temp can get put in those tires. He slides up there and locks into place. And now it is going to be 5 red lights. And we are underway here for the sprint race here in Qatar in pole position racing. And as we get away, it is going to be, as it's saying, Buchik is in the lead. I don't know. It's going to be Graxit in the lead. Jalajne now up into second place here. It's side by side with Baran on the inside. Baran and Jalajne battling out very, very hard. And there we go. Around the outside goes Jalajne. And it is going to be Baran again to the inside as we battle through the first sector. Hard dive here to the inside. And it is going to be Graxit and Baran who maintain the 1-2. And now it is, of course, going to be Jalajne in the third place. And now we watch here as we see John Meister going around. We see there was a yellow flag for a moment. Debe into 11th place. Kushor in P12. And then Velix 13th. Wasserschwein and Maverick rounding out the back of the field here as we see Wasserschwein and Velix battling side by side here in the mid, or at the back of the pack as we go through. And there's the collection. Oh, that is Debe and that is Buchik who have came together and collected each other. But it looks like both get that going without issues here for this 10-lap sprint race. And as we continue on, the drivers are putting lots of pressure all the way through the field here. Mateusz up into P5, who is still trying to fight with Kashti there in 4th place. Jalajne in 3rd, doing a great defense here against Kashti and Mateusz. And as we round lap 1 of 10, it is going to be Graxit in the lead, Baran in P2, P3, Jalajne, and then Kashti, who is under pressure from Mateusz and John Meister. And we can see Mateusz up the inside there, and John Meister's going to go along as well. He's going to try to go inside, make it 3 wide here. And as they come out, it is side by side through. Who's going to come out ahead is Kashti makes it 3 wide. Kashti goes into a barrier, and Kashti will have to settle in for P6. Mateusz in 4th, and John Meister into 5th place, but John Meister with lots of pace there. You can see he's battling Kashti with lots of pace up the inside, trying to hold on to it. And it doesn't look like the pass is going to go through, but John Meister trying to take advantage of the soft tires, and he spins off in a very weird spot, and Debe goes off as well. Was there oil on the track? What just happened? That is such a weird place for them to spin like that, but nevertheless, spin they did, and that's going to drop them back, and now Kaniel Ellis is in P14, Buchik in 15th place as we run through here, but in the lead, nevertheless, Graxit, Baran, Jalajne, and Mateusz are top 4, with Graxit pulling just over a second gap on his teammate Baran, P3 Jalajne, P4 Mateusz, as they continue to battle here. You know, I'm really surprised that Jalajne has not moved his way forward against Baran. Jalajne, a car that we know has pace, and a driver that I know personally is very, very good at passing. So, curious to see what's been the holdup here and what's taking him so long to get through. And I don't anticipate that it's going to take him much longer to get past, but he does, of course, have that very, very fast Mateusz right behind that you can see, and Mateusz is going to be looking to try to get a pass done as well. And now, as we watch through, we're lap 3 of 10 here. In the back, there's a little bit of battling here. Wasserschwein and Velix, who are keeping each other very, very honest, very, very pushy there from Velix up the inside on Wasserschwein. Wasserschwein is going to try to shut the door, not have enough room there. You can see as they come around here, starting the middle sector, there was something happen with Wasserschwein. I don't know if that was contact with Velix, but you can see just a flash of Wasserschwein off to the side there. And now you can also see John Meister, who is having a very, very bad race. A race that I would argue you're going to want to forget by the end of it. Checking back in with our race leaders here, it is Graxit, Baran, Jalajne, and Kushor now having a moment, I believe, as Kushor is up the inside of the track and getting passed there by several drivers. Debe now back into the top 10 here, and Debe is the lead car of this 4-car pack here for 10th place. Checking in with Puhash here in 6th in the AlphaTauri. He is nice and relaxed and just trying to sit on the back of this front grid. And of course it is Velix, who is significantly back from the top 7. Here we go, Mateusz with a lot of pace, trying to get a pass done here on Jalajne. And again, he's just staying right there. He's not able to get the pass done, but he's staying just right there. Debe getting passed by Kaniel there, and is dropped down into 11th place at this time. And into the pits goes Kushor, it looks like. We'll see Kushor with a front wing change. So on a sprint race, as I said earlier, it's very important to have a very good and clean sprint race, because it can cost you majorly in the Grand Prix if you don't. Lap 410 here, we're already almost halfway through the sprint race, and you can see Jalajne 0.6 of a second back on Baran, and he has 0.4 of a second behind him, Mateusz for company. You can see through the middle sector is really where the drivers are struggling to follow. They're trying to just stay right behind and relaxed and just hold on, and they're doing a fairly decent job of it, but you can see the gaps start to open up as things go. And Baran picks up a 3-second time penalty. That is not what Baran needed. In a race this short, he does not have time to pull up a significant gap. So that 3 seconds is going to cost him monumentally. It'll actually drop him probably all the way back into P7. By the time things are all said and done, possibly only P6. But it looks like it will drop him back into P7 at this point. So that is unfortunate for Baran. Track limits playing a big part there for him. Continue to follow here this battle for P3, battle for P2 now of Baran, Jalajne, and Mateusz as they continue to push. You can see that Baran is actually panning on his teammate a bit, so I have to wonder, are Mercedes going to pull a little bit of team strategy here? What will be the decision between these two? Are they going to hold station and allow Graxit to have the lead in the main event, or are they going to try to flip-flop a little bit? Of course, remember, this is just our sprint race. This is just the beginning of the weekend here. Coming around, about to start lap 6 of 10. Mateusz continuing to put pressure on Jalajne. Jalajne is losing the gap to Baran. He's outside of a second now. It's 1.3 seconds the gap between Baran and Jalajne. Of course, Jalajne to Mateusz. It's a tenth of a second. It's nothing. They're side by side here into turn one. And as we see Jalajne to the inside, Mateusz to the outside, what is going to become of this battle? Side by side, a little bit of wheel tap. You can see going defensive there. And Mateusz will take the inside to get past Jalajne. And this is also opening up the door for Kashti. Kashti trying to get into this battle as well and see if he can make up a couple places in the mix here. But as we go through, Mateusz is going to get past Jalajne. Jalajne is going to say, okay, I'll follow you for a minute. We'll see what becomes of this race here. And it is going to be Debe with another 3-second time penalty. So Buchek, Debe, and Wasserschwein, 3-second time penalties. Baran has swapped places with Graxit there in the lead. So the Mercedes drivers opting to swap positions here to try to give Baran as much forward momentum as possible going into the main event here in just a moment. And as we come around here, Mateusz, 1.2 seconds the gap, so he's not really gaining on Baran and Graxit ahead like he would want to be. But he is trying, and then of course Jalajne and Kashti just right there behind, so everybody's staying nice and relaxed and consistent. Debe down into 12th place. Buchek into 11th place. Wasserschwein in P13. John Meister and Kushor having sprint races that they would like to forget, I believe, as we go through. But good news is kind of get all those jitters out in the sprint race, and then when it comes to the main race, you'll have a little bit better time through. Now look at Mercedes here. Look at Baran and Graxit. I do think they're trying to work together to build up a bit of a gap on Mateusz, because the gap now 1.6 seconds between Graxit and Mateusz, and they know that they need to have a 3-second gap between Baran and Mateusz. So they're not that far off the gap they want here with just 3 laps to go in this sprint race. They're doing very, very good here. Jalajne coming up around the inside, trying to get past Mateusz, but not close enough to get a pass done. Kashti there just behind. And then, of course, Puhash is just behind that as well. And then there's a bit of a gap going through the rest of the field. The rest of the field opening up quite a bit. So, and then yellow flag, sector 1, sector 2. It looks like that is going to be for Buchek, who has probably spun there through the left-hander, starting the second sector, turn 6, I believe that is. All right, lap 7 of 10 here, and the question for me is, what can the Mercedes drivers do to open up a gap on Mateusz? They're 2 seconds ahead, Baran is, and they need to open up a bit more of a gap here. They don't need to be squabbling like they are, but there it is. Graxit getting back ahead of Baran again. Now, Baran needs to really stay on the back of Graxit here. The gap 2 seconds between Baran and Mateusz, and he needs to open up another second at least. Otherwise, he will be falling back to about P6. You can see Mercedes trying to get that run going, but doing their best they can to try to open up a gap here between Baran and Mateusz, and it seems like it's working sub. But then other points it's not. Other points it's actually the gap's closing a little bit, so need to see what becomes of that as we go through lap 8 of 10 here. Jalajne, again, still under pressure by Kashti, just behind, so he needs to really try to open things up and get going as well. He's not too far off the pace of where he wants to be, though. Velik's picking up a 3-second time penalty, so just this sprint race, the amount of penalties I'm seeing tells me that penalties in the main race is going to be a big, big event to watch out for. Lap 9 of 10 starting now. 2 laps to go, and Jalajne again still trying to chase down Mateusz, behind by 0.6 of a second. 1.6 seconds gap between Mateusz and Baran just ahead. You can see that Graxit and Baran still trying to get a bit of a gap going and open things up, and it looks like at this point it will be P5 for Baran, if I can do my math correctly, of where he should land out. Which is unfortunate to see, but that is the nature of track limits. You got to be careful with them. Graxit Mateusz Zalajny Kashti keeping things very clean. Baran picks up track limits, and that is just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, and it'll drop you back a place. Now, as we watch here and continue, Gragson, Baran trying to build a gap here. Again, we're halfway through this lap 9 of 10, and Gragson, Baran just continue to run a gap here. Mateusz there in P3. And now Mateusz picks up a time penalty as well, where things get interesting. Zalajny now needs to just stay relaxed. Zalajny might find himself starting the main event on the front row here. Or it could be Kashti. It depends on how this last lap goes. As we're white flag here, and it is going to be Gragson, Baran, Mateusz, Zalajny, Kashti. Our top 5 all separated by just a handful of seconds here. And we will see which driver lands where when the race is over. Of course, this is just our first sprint race of a handful held here in pole position racing. Our next sprint race, I don't believe it's for a little bit though. I believe that is going to be our next sprint race. Won't come until the 24th of March in Silverstone. It's an appropriate venue to have a sprint race. And that is just a handful of weeks away. Of course, racing every Sunday. If you're interested in joining, it's exclamation Discord in the chat. Get a link to the Discord and then get involved. And who knows, maybe next week I'll see you out here on the track and we can watch how your performance is in the Netherlands, which I believe it is indeed Zandvoort that will be next week. But as we come around the final handful of corners here, it is going to be Gragson and Baran holding P1, P2 here. And they are just nice and settled in. Gragson now picks up a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting right as the bell is ringing. But Gragson will come across. It's P1 on track. But where does it drop Gragson to when things are all said and done? It should drop him, I believe. Let's see. Gragson finishes. Baran finishes. Mateusz and Zalajny will take pole position there. Kashti up into P4. Mateusz will drop to P5. Garon P6. Myros will be P7. P8 Maverick. That's just a case on drivers waiting to go through. Look at Ferrari. Look at Debe getting around Velix for P10. Right there on the main straight. Very, very good move there from him. And then P12 of Wasserschwein comes across. Buchik will be 13th. John Meister 14th. And then, of course, we will just wait for Kushor, who is just now coming around the final corner. And now, as Kushor crosses the line, that is all 15 drivers across the grid here for our sprint race. And now, everybody stick with us for just a moment as we are going to go get things set up for the main event. And if I could remember to unmute my mic, that would be great. Of course, 29 laps of action coming at you, 15 drivers. So everybody buckle up, hold your seat, and get ready for some good action to come at you. As far as pit stop strategy, I am only expecting a one stop here, possibly a two stop if some of the drivers are feeling really, really brave here. And it is, of course, the hard of the medium tires that are making the majority of the appearances. This track is not very kind to tires, so I am not surprised at all to see the medium and the hard tires be the starting tires out. I do think Grax and Baran both being on hard tires is interesting. However, I would say that they are going to be looking at playing the long game here as we go. Now, as the drivers come up to the grid here, it is going to be Jalajne that is actually the car who is going to settle into his pit box, or his grid slot first. Jalajne, Braxton in P2 and Baran in P3. So how will the lone McLaren driver deal with having two Mercedes teammates right beside him? And then, of course, Kashti and the Williams there in fourth will have some pressure to apply as well. So what is the strategy for the driver? Well, that is something I am not sure of, but I'm sure we're going to get our answer here. Across 29 laps time, it is, of course, Jalajne in the lead, Grax 2. It is going to be 5 red lights, and we are underway for the Qatar Grand Prix here in pole position racing, and it is a good getaway from Jalajne. Nowhere near as good of a getaway from Graxon as he needed, and Kashi's already up putting pressure. The Mercedes drivers are struggling with their race starts through, and look at that. They are absolutely getting gobbled up. They're falling back. 4th place now. 6th place for Baran and Kashfi up into P2. Mateusz into 3rd, and now Baran is going to be trying to get a pass done here against Puhash there and go through for 5th place if he can make the pass happen, which he can't. Back in the background, you've got Daniel battling out with Debe there for 8th place, and it does look like that he is going to settle in. Look ahead there. That is going to be Baran getting back up into 5th place. There on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see side by side as we go through, and that is going to be Puhash, who is back in the 5th place there. And now we continue to go around, and here we go. That is, of course, going to be the run here through the middle sector for the first of 29 times, and it looks like it's been a very clean start. I don't see any drivers really out of pace of the pack, and everybody seems to be holding on fairly close, but Jalajne with almost a second lead there over Kashti very early on, and Graxit and Baran having a very, very poor race start, going from 2nd and 3rd to 4th and 6th. So now the question for Mercedes is going to be, what can they do to work their way back up the field? They need to really, really be pushing here, and you see Graxit is already under pressure from Puhash there, and Baran is under pressure from Myros. So they really, really need to be finding their pace and getting through as fast as they can. As the drivers come around here, halfway through lap 2 of 29, you can see Graxit losing pace here to Mateusz, and it seems like maybe the hard tires just settling in here, trying to make these tires last and do the best he can. Baran is putting pressure here on Puhash and trying to move his way forward up into 5th place. He's keeping within just a couple of tenths there, but not close enough at the moment. Really get a pass done. Of course, DRS, no DRS for 2 laps after safety car. So DRS will now be enabled here as Kashi sets the fastest lap there in P2. So the only DRS zone on this track, though, is the main straight here in Qatar, which means for the drivers, they've still got to get through all 95% other sections of the track before they get DRS. And again, it's just DRS down the main straight. Puchek into the pits, Puchek onto a set of hard tires. So we'll keep our eyes on Buchik to see what that does for him and what his plan may be there in the Williams. Baran in 6th place, still trying to chase down Puhash, who is, of course, driving under Gavron and is in the AlphaTauri. And you can see there the gap half second, continuing to hold on as much as he can through. Battle up front here has started to tighten up. His Kashti is just 0.3 of a second back on Jalajne and is continuing to push and try to gain pace against him as he can. He's doing a fairly good job at being consistent around and is just staying nice and relaxed as much as he can. Putting just consistent pressure through the entire part of the track and just trying to see where he has pace on Jalajne and what he can do to make Jalajne make a mistake. And as we get on the main straight, it's going to be very, very close here. 0.3 of a second or less is the gap. And of course, he will have the help of DRS. Jalajne is going to defend the inside, but Kashti will be right on the outside. DRS is open, and he is going to be through before they even hit the braking zone for turn 1. So Kashti now in the lead, lap 4 of 29. And you can see something's happened here with Debe and Myros. Myros dropping down to the 9th. Caniel and Debe going up in the 7th and 8th, respectively, here as we watch this run here. And Puhash still under pressure from Baran and is putting a little bit of pressure on Graxit as we go. And as we sit back, we watch lap 429 here, riding on board with Baran. Just consistency is going to be the key for this long, tricky, demanding race. You just need to be nice and consistent the whole way through. You need no mistakes. Don't need track limits warnings. You don't need time penalties. You need to just stay relaxed, stay consistent, and fight your way through the field and get your way forward as much as you can. That's exactly what we see the front of the grid doing here. We see Baran, who is trying to battle through Kashti, getting past Bajalajne, and that's going to be a back and forth that we will see a lot here. This battle for P1 and P2, because of the DRS, we'll see them pass back and forth time and time and time again as this race goes on. So you can keep your eye on that, and good luck to anyone who's trying to do the math on who wins the race by the end, because I cannot do that. I'm not sure. Running out the third sector of lap 5 here, Jalajne still trying to defend against Kashti and hold on as best he can. Jalajne with Kashti, this is a very, very close battle, and I do think Kashti's going to be close enough this time around in order to get a pass on Jalajne. And again, these drivers are going to just swap back and forth for a majority of this race. You're going to do very, very well to just go back and forth, and by the end, it will be anyone's guess who finishes P1 and who finishes P2. As we can see, Kashti has passed Jalajne yet again down the main straight. So that is going to set things up here where Kashti will be in the lead. Kashti kind of dictates everything, and it'll be up to Kashti to try to hold on to the place. And if you're Mateusz, you are just sitting back watching those two battle. You are hoping that you can get a pass done and get your way moved forward if possible. Lap 6 of 29, lap 7 will mark a quarter of the way through our race here. And as we check in, it is, of course, going to be Kashti up 3 places in the lead. Jalajne, who started on poles, currently sitting P2. Mateusz we're riding on board with. Started out P5, currently P3. Graxit, who had that abysmal start, dropped down into 4th place, and his teammate Baran, who had a horrible start as well and is down in 6th place. And the two Mercedes drivers are just trying to ride consistent and do the best they can here. John Meister in 7th, Daniel in 8th place, another ART driver joining the ranks of pole position racing. Dede in 9th, Myros in 10th place here. He's down a few places, but John Meister, the big winner of that race start, up into P7 after starting in last place. He's gained 8 places. Very, very impressive from him. Buchik, the only driver that's taken a pit stop here, and that's just because Buchik, I believe, was just having a bit of a rough start and needed to do a front wing change. Of course, all drivers on either medium or hard tires fighting their way through. Myros there on the hard, starting to push Debe there in the mediums. I have to wonder if that is a case of the medium starting to fall off a little bit, or if it is the hard tires coming in, or maybe it is just a pure pace advantage there between Myros and Debe. But only one way to find out, as these two are holding on very, very close to each other. And then, of course, you've got... Oh, and when I say very close, I mean they have swapped places now. And Myros is now up into 9th, and Debe is in 10th place. As we watch here in the front, Jalajne and Kashti poised to swap yet again down the main straight, unless Jalajne can do something to defend this. And DRS open down to the line. It is Kashti ahead of Jalajne now. Kashti is going to slot back into the outside, and there we go. That is another swap for the lead, Kashti, Jalajne. And again, Mateusz just right in the background, just kind of enjoying this. He's on the hard tires. His tires are going to start coming into their own. So all he needs to do is just kind of sit back and relax and enjoy watching these two battle. He can possibly find his way forward. Graxit is a driver that really needs to actually be stepping on the gas and moving forward if he can. That gap there, 1.8 seconds between Graxit and Mateusz, but Graxit really needs to be closing it down and doing what he can. Of course, I do believe Graxit saving a little bit of his pace for the second half of the race. So I think Graxit is trying to play the long game and not worry about getting up into the lead or getting a win right now. He understands that we're on lap 8 of 29. Now another track limit handed out for Caniel. Caniel now up to 3 seconds of time penalties, which is very, very unfortunate to see for him. But again, as we saw in the sprint, track limits are going to play a large part in this track. Very tricky, very frustrating track. So that's going to be where I think things start to dial down. Jalajne and Kashti still battling here in the lead, and you get to Kashti putting a lot of pressure through. Mateusz is now caught up as well, so Mateusz is just right in the mix of this as he can be. So anything that happens between Jalajne and Kashti can open up the door for Mateusz to try to have a pass done. Mateusz, I mean, look at that, just so close. Now, of course, the more these three battle, the more that's going to open things up for Graxit. So if things open up for Graxit and that gap comes down, we could look into a 6-way battle for the lead. Which, that would be huge. And honestly, we're not that far off of that, because look at that, Graxit 1.2 off of Mateusz. He's not that far away. Puhash is just over a second away from Graxit. So these drivers are not that far off from setting up a very, very intense battle. And now, as we go into the main street, to the main straight to start lap 10 of 29, this is gonna be the moment where I'm curious to see what Mateusz decides to do. DRS is closed. No, it's open for him. There we go. But he is just kind of settling in. Kashi's in the lead. Jalajne is in P2. Mateusz is in P3. Baran and Puhash swapping places there down into turn 1. So that puts Baran up into 5th behind his teammate there. 10 to 29, and again, we can see this gap being very, very close. Kashti opening up a little bit more of a gap on Jalajne than he had, and Mateusz is still very, very close to Jalajne, trying to battle through. Braxton's still about a second and a half back, and then Baran, of course, in P5, looking further back in the field. The mid-pack has really started to spread out a bit, and they are kind of all just relaxing and running their own race. Everybody's doing the best they can. Try to move forward and keep things going, but Mateusz is really the one that has the power in his hands right now. If he can get this pass on Jalajne or Kashti and get up to them to attempt to pass, he could really, really mix this race up. You saw there the DRS opening on Mateusz's Red Bull. As we go, you see he's slipstreaming. He's trying to look around, and there we go. Up ahead of him, it's Jalajne and Kashti side by side going around, but Mateusz was right there in the mix too. He was not that far away. As we go through here, middle sector, it's still Jalajne, Kashti, Mateusz, our top three. Graxit still hovering about the 1.5 second mark, and Baran not that far behind him. So these drivers doing really well to keep things competitive all the way through. And you can see that Kashti is like really just trying to be smart and pick his moment and see what he can do. Myros on the soft tires, which I think is a bit of an error there from Myros. I don't think Myros meant to go on soft tires, but he did, which is kind of funny. And I know those won't last till the end, but he could honestly try to take them. And I think it would be funny. But as we go down the main straight, Jalajne, Kashti, Mateusz, your top three. You can see here, Kashti is trying to push, trying to get DRS. Does get DRS, and now Kashti is around Jalajne there for one. Now he needs to open up the gap. He needs to run away from Jalajne as fast as he can. Say you can't catch him, he's a gingerbread man, but Kashti is not fast enough to get away there. Jalajne is still in P2. It's still just a couple of tenths back. It is still under immense pressure there from Mateusz. Mateusz less than 2 tenths back and is making his presence known. We got lap 12. Kashti's in the lead. Jalajne, Mateusz, Graxit, Baran, Gavron, aka Puhash, and Kaniel, your top 7 as we run through. And of course, the gap still opened up a lot between all of the other racers further back in the field. But big battle is for these front positions. And as we hit the main straight, we are nearing the halfway point of this race. And I have to wonder, at what point did these medium tire runners decide to pit? Jalajne gets around Kashti here. Mateusz wants a run as well. Mateusz around the outside there. The hard tires really starting to come into their own, and Kashti just doesn't have enough grip to respond. So Kashti will have to settle into P3, Mateusz in P2, and Jalajne in P1. Graxit's in 4th, and Baran is in 5th. As we come through middle sector, lap 13, it's Jalajne, Mateusz, and Kashti. You can see Kashti losing a bit more gap this time as he's not close enough in order to make a pass happen. And he's, of course, now having to fight double trouble with traffic. And not just Jalajne and staying behind Jalajne. He's now going to fight Jalajne, but also Mateusz that is going through. And that's going to make things significantly more challenging for him as he goes. You can see he says he wants none of that and opts to go directly into the pits. Takashi will be the first of our lead cars to go into the pits. I have to think that he's trying to do some sort of an undercut or something different. Maybe throwing a dummy to everyone. There we go. Kashi's in. Kashi's in. Wasserschwein's in. Dede's in. And Kushor is. So that will put Kashi a long ways back. But for Kashi, that may give him the advantage of getting the overcut if he can. He is going to come out behind Velix. Does he come out behind John Meister? Looks like he does not. He only comes out behind Velix, which is a very, very good position for him to find himself in. And somebody has spun up in the middle sector. It looks like that's actually Gavron who has spun. Up 14 to 29 here, and Maverick has gotten past Gavron there on the inside and is able to get his way forward for the lead. And now our leaders come around. Jalajne is into the pits. Mateusz stays out. Graxent is staying out. Baron is staying out. Daniel is staying out. Maverick is into the pits. Gavron is into the pits. Lots of drivers going into the pits this time by Kashpi going around in 8th place, holding on there, and Jalajne in, Jalajne coming out onto a fresh set of hards. Kashpi onto a set of hard tires. You see him there just behind your screen battling with John Meister, so he's not able to get the undercut, and Jalajne will come out ahead and come out with a car between, which is going to be music to Jalajne's, because he knows he can breathe a little bit easier, not having to force it. Drive too hard. So, kudos to the Good Samaritan who stopped. Lap 15 of 29. We are approaching the halfway point here, and at the moment it is Mateusz, Graxent, and Baron, your top three. Track limits penalties to nearly every driver except for Graxent, Jalajne, Kashti, Maverick, and Kushor. As it seems that Mateusz is into the pits here, is Graxent into the pits as well. It looks like Graxent and Baron are going to stay out. They're going to attempt the overcut here and see if the overcut can work. But you can see the teammates are battling side by side. Baron in the lead, Graxent down into P2 now, so with this being the decision to swap the cars, I have to wonder. Lap 16 to 29, and again, it's still Baron, Graxent, and Daniel, your top three. Mateusz in and out of the pits onto a set of mediums. Mediums are going to be pushing it to go the distance, but it's not to say as them. Lap 16 to 29 here, Baron and Graxent still in the lead, and they've got a 10-second gap back to Daniel, so plenty of room there. Baron, the first Mercedes driver into the pits here, means Graxent needs to have a very, very strong outlap, and we'll see where Baron lands here in the pits. Baron coming through, goes underneath the DHL sign, and you can see the Mercedes crew rushing out very quick to meet him, and he is in. It's going to be 4 tires, medium tires, and he is right back out, but where does it put him? As Daniel's in the pits as well. So, and you can see there that Baron out of the pits and just coming out behind a gaggle of cars that he decided he wanted no part in, and good decision from him there, as it was John Meister, Mateusz, Kashki, and Jalajne he's going to come out behind, and they were battling extremely hard, as you could see. Engel's going to come out just ahead of Wasserschwein, who's coming down the main straight now. So, good decision from both Jalajne and John Monster to not cause any issues there coming out of the pits. And now, I just got to know who is going to push here. It's just Graxent left the pit, and Buchik, of course, but Buchik, of course, did it on lap 2, so... And now, into the pits comes Graxent here. Graxent into the pits, and that is going to mean Jalajne may take back over as race leader unless Graxent pulled out a great undercut. But the gap, 18.5 seconds, so I think Graxent is actually going to come out behind his teammate Baron and will come out a bit behind as you see Jalajne coming down the main straight. Now, Graxent's already in and out of his pit stall, but he's got a long way to go down that pit. And it should be Jalajne and Kashti through, which it is. Mateusz going into the mix as well. Mateusz fighting his way up into P2 there with the fastest lap as well. He goes around. Baron getting past John Meister up for P4. And now it is Graxent coming out. So Graxent losing tons of time there. Going down into P6. Going around for lap 18 of 29, it's Jalajne, Mateusz, Kashti, Baron, John Meister, and Graxent. Graxent coming out 6th place there on the brand new medium tires. He's going to have to get those tires nice and going here so he can try to catch up to John Meister and Baron and Kashti, Mateusz, and Jalajne and try to get this win. Of course, Jalajne on hard tires, so Jalajne is going to be under some pressure early. But as the race goes on with just 11 laps to go, he should be able to catch a bit more pace here. Mateusz needs to take advantage early and get past Jalajne as fast as possible. Kashti in 4th place with another 3-second time penalty for corner cutting, which is very unfortunate for him. Now, Baron with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix here, starting lap 19, and just continuing to sit in this train. Baron, Kashti, Mateusz, and Jalajne just continuing to sit, follow each other through, and do the best they can to try to find a passing opportunity. Of course, that is easier said than done, but they're doing a fairly good job of just holding the track together. Jalajne and Graxent and Maverick, and up the inside goes Baron on Kashti. He saw the opportunity. He tried to take it. There's a bit of a wheel tap there, and Baron breaks traction, and Baron has to let it go there. So Kashti holds on to P3, but only just. You can see Baron trying to respond there and trying to get a nose up the inside. Not able to make it happen, but man, he wanted to there. So that is Kashti and Baron battling, and as they battle, it's going to open up the gap to Mateusz and Jalajne, which is, of course, what Mateusz and Jalajne want. Baron just continuing to put pressure down on Kashti as they go. Mateusz less than a tenth off of Jalajne coming out of the final corner, so I think Mateusz may have a good run here to the end. And he does. Mateusz into the lead. P2 is Peter Griffith. P3 is Baron. P4 is Kashti. Excellent. And John Meister in 6th place trying to challenge as well. Graxent not closing that gap to Kashti, really. The gap still 2.7 seconds there for our 5th place driver and defending champion. And I know I talked to him at one point, and he said that consistency was the key that he was going for. He was looking to just be very consistent through every race, and he wanted that to be how he secured the championship. I told him, I said, I don't know that it's doable, but good luck if that is truly your plan, because that is, it attests to the confidence of Graxent and shows that he knows he's good at sim racing, and he is just trying to keep going and keep going and keep going. Going through lap 21 now. Jalajne under a lot of pressure up in the lead from Mateusz and Baran and Kashti, all pushing very, very hard to try to get this race win through. Jalajne, Mateusz, Baran. He 1, 2, 3, battling it out. Graxon's closed the gap down to 1.3 seconds. Baran now picking up another 3-second time penalty, I believe, for corner cutting. So really all Jalajne has to do is just keep it clean, and he can have the win. We're lap 21 of 29 here, and I mean, they are doing everything they can to put pressure forward. Mateusz does look very well slated to win this race on track, but again, the penalties are going to be what get these drivers. 3 seconds for Mateusz, 6 seconds for Baran, 3 seconds for Kashti. So all Graxon really has to do is just kind of stay in the mix, which is exactly what he's doing, but I know that Graxon wants to challenge for the race win itself. And it looked like Lewis thought about having to dive up the inside there. Graxon, not Lewis. Then again, Graxon's pulling a reverse Lewis. He went Ferrari or Red Bull to Mercedes, and Lewis is going Mercedes to Ferrari. So weird things happening. Up the inside there goes Graxon, or up the outside goes Graxon. Up the inside went Baran. Baran now on the outside here against Mateusz, trying to get a pass done. Jalajne is there. So things are kicking off very, very quick with 7 laps to go. Mateusz now down into P2. And Baran will slot in to be your race leader now. Baran, you need to back him up and give your boy Graxon a chance to get forward. Looks like that's what's happening. Here goes Graxon up for P3. And Graxon is side by side there with Jalajne. He's trying to get the pass done. He's on the outside of the corner there. Side by side they go. McLaren versus Mercedes. And when the dust settles, it is going to be Graxon. And Graxon, Jalajne touch, and Graxon gets sent off into the gravel. And that is going to be very, very unfortunate for Graxon with just a handful of laps to go. And it's going to knock him way back in the standings here. 10.5 seconds he's lost now, and he needs to try to move forward. And I'm sure that the stewards will review that later, because that was... that one hurt me. Now Baran in the lead here. Mateusz in P2, 1.1 seconds back, and Jalajne 1.4 back from there. Both Baran and Mateusz have 6-second time penalties, and it is going to be up to Jalajne to just close that gap and maintain that very close gap. But if he has any damage at all, that's easier said than done. Is with Kashti getting past Jalajne there. Moving up into P3. And he only has 3 seconds of penalty, so if he could stay there, Kashti would be effective P2 this race. But man, for Graxon, that is so unfortunate to see him drop back like that. I hate seeing that. I'm sure Graxon is very, very frustrated with what just happened as well. As we watch here with just a handful of laps to go, 6 laps to go here when they cross the line, it is going to be Baran, Mateusz, Kashti, Jalajne. But of course, remember, penalties play a very, very serious mix in this. So, as it stands, it is effectively Jalajne is the winner on track, Kashti is in P2. Graxon's going to try to make up this 10 seconds by the end of the race. I don't know that he can, but he is definitely going to try. Gap now down to 9.7. He's going to continue to push as hard as he can, but of course, Jalajne has DRS. Kashti is just outside DRS range, so they may start to close things up to the cars ahead as they can, because Mateusz now has a 2-second gap. He needs to build up another second gap in order to still finish ahead of Kashti. As we go here, 5 laps to go now in this race, and it is Jalajne to Graxent, the big battle to watch here. But Graxent 9.5 seconds back. I don't think there's anything he can do. So essentially, it's just watching Jalajne hold gap here against Kashti and just kind of relax. Penalties again are going to play a huge part in this battle, so we will see how things wind up towards the end. Jalajne does get past Kashti there, moves his way up into P3 now on track. So we'll see if Jalajne goes ahead and puts some hammer down, and we're going to see if he wants to go for getting the win on track as well as in the timing tables. See Jalajne just very much trying to just keep consistent, keep comfortable. Jalajne cannot afford a penalty right now because it would be detrimental to his race. But you can also see Kashti, lots of pressure just behind, is trying to get Jalajne to make a mistake. He wants him to get that time penalty because then it puts them back on an even playing field here. But Jalajne, an extremely consistent driver, not a big issue for him here. About 26 to 29 now. We're nearing the end of this race as we see Jalajne there around turn 6 and just trying to hold a consistent pace against Kashti and just stay there in the mix when it counts. Looking back further through the field here, Debe is trying to battle up for P9 at the moment. He's got 6 seconds of penalties to his name, though, against Wasserschwein and Puhash, who only have 3, and of course Pushor, who only has 3 as well. Myros with 9 seconds of penalties, Belix with 9 seconds of penalties, and Mateusz now lining up with 9 seconds of penalties. Baran has 6 seconds. So that is going to be huge to see how that plays out here for these drivers in the front of the field and how things mix up here. Just a couple of laps left to go. Jalajne and Kashti battling, and this is going to be Jalajne getting back around Kashti. Of course, Jalajne at the moment is in position to have the race win here. And Graxent, I thought Graxent would catch up a little bit, but Graxent has been stuck at about that 9.5 second gap. He really has not closed any time on Kashti or Jalajne. So that is going to be unfortunate for Graxent. Graxent, of course, was in the contention for a win for a majority of this race, and then I believe him and Jalajne had a little bit of contact. It was hard to see from the angle I was at whether there was actually contact or not. And I'm sure there will be, like, steward's review after the race to see who landed where. As we watch here, Jalajne and Kashti coming through. It's going to be Jalajne coming around here to start lap 28 of 29 now. Wasserschwein now picking up a 3-second time penalty, and that is going to put him towards 6 seconds of penalties. So Jalajne, Graxent, and Maverick, the only 3 cars that do not have any penalties at all on this race. So Qatar proving to be an extremely, extremely tricky track for these drivers all the way through. but they are doing well to finish the race. Nobody's DNF'd here. No major accidents we've seen. Just the one real incident there with Jalajne and Graxit, and then maybe a little bit of lap 1 contact, but nobody DNFing out of the race. No safety cars here. And overall, an extremely, extremely clean race and a very, very good one. And that includes the sprint weekend, or the sprint race as well. But as we run through the middle sector of the track, it is Jalajne just trying to stay nice and comfortable and consistent through the middle sector and just making sure that Jalajne doesn't pick up any time penalties here, with Graxit sticking around in 5th place, 9 seconds back, and Graxit, unfortunately, is going to be a little too far back to try to pick up anything from time penalties, I believe. And now there's a Haas there off in Sector 1. Looks like that is Myros. Myros retiring out of this section. But we are, of course, hitting lap 29. This is going to be the final lap of the race. And Jalajne will get past Kashti there and run for the final lap there in P3. But P3 will, of course, turn into P1. John Meister picking up another 3 seconds penalty. So John Meister now up to 10 seconds as well. Maverick is only 10.3 behind him. So if Maverick can find a little over a second in this lap, Maverick will be able to move up into P7 here. And as we go through and around and we enjoy this final lap around Qatar, it is Baran who is currently in the lead, trying to open up a 6-second gap to Mateusz. Gap is 5.4, but of course Mateusz has an additional 3 seconds penalties than Baran does. So we'll have to see how things calculate out as drivers cross the start-finish line, because I cannot figure out who is going to be where in my head. And looks like the Williams Akashbi spinning a little bit there. That is going to open things up. Graxit now has 3 seconds of time penalties, so that is going to be detrimental for him. Puhash getting past Wasserschwein back in P9, but all eyes stay on this man, Jalajne. Jalajne is going to come around the final couple of corners here. Graxit is going to get past Kashbi, up for that P4 with 3 seconds of penalties here. So we'll see how things go. Baran crossing the start-finish line. Mateusz will cross next. And then Jalajne will come around the line. Jalajne moves up to P2. So Baran does keep the win. Baran had enough of a gap in order to get the win. Jalajne only goes up to P2. Mateusz in P3. Graxit will go to 4th place. Kashti should be the next car across the line. John Meister gets through, and John Meister will move up into 5th place. Kashti will actually be 5th after penalties. And then Canyon will move up into 6th. John Meister down into 7th. Maverick, I believe, will be 8th place. Look at that trail of cars behind him. It is Maverick, Gavron, Wasserschwein, Debe. And now we wait, because the next car across is going to be Velix and then Kushor. And then, of course, last place is going to be Buchek, who is just now finishing the 3rd sector. But Baran does pull out the race win there. I thought he had too much in penalties to get that win, but he does manage to find it. There's Jalajne in P2, Mateusz in P3, and Graxit in 4th. Kashti will finish out top 5. So driver of the day comes out to be John Meister. Very, very well deserved. So, and as we see, Baran, Jalajne, Mateusz, Graxit, Kashti top 5, Kaniel, John Meister, Maverick, Gavron, Wasserschwein, Debe, Kushor, Felix, and Buchek. And that was a very, very interesting race. I'm sure that incident there between Jalajne and Graxon will go under review, and we'll see how that changes things. But overall, a very, very good sprint weekend and a very, very good race from top to bottom. Now, next week, we are going to have the great, great run of Zandvoort, and we'll see what Zandvoort brings. But until next time, my name is Brad, and I will see you here in 7 days' time.